The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to SOS's first dedicated webinar for Australia and New Zealand. My name is Ken Shaw. I'm the CEO of SOS Online Backup. With me here today, I've got Shaylin Herrick, our Director of B2B Marketing.
Hello.
And our brand new Director of Business Development, Stephen Gold. Stephen, say hello.
Hello.
It's Stephen's first day, so we're going to ask Stephen a lot of questions and give him a hard time. Speaking of questions, everybody should have a poll on screen, which I'm just about to close. But we're giving away a Kindle at today's webinar. So to go in the draw for the Kindle, you need to actually ask a question. We raffle off the Kindle based on anybody who asked the question. So go ahead and find the questions tool in the GoToWebinar software, and just, if I can ask for an AV check, and if everybody who's listening, tell me if you can see my screen okay. Should have my email up, and now we're flipping across to PowerPoint. All right, we've got some questions coming in. Remember, to go in the draw for that Kindle, you've got to ask a question. All right, seems like that is working. Okay, so in today's webinar, so we've got a few people coming in. Again, I encourage you to find that questions tool, because we do raffle off that Kindle if you ask a question. And we're going to be using it throughout the webinar to sort of keep things as interactive as possible. In the webinar today, we're going to cover a lot of territory. It'll go for roughly an hour. There'll be a Q&A session at the end, but what we find is we actually usually just sort of stop for questions and discuss matters as we go through the webinar. Again, sort of underscoring the importance of keeping it interactive and telling us what you'd like to hear about. The structure of the webinar looks like this. So we'll be going through an industry overview. Well, what I should firstly say is we're going to go through what you want to hear about, so you can let us know what topics you're most interested in. We've got that poll here, so most participants in the poll have said that the thing they're most interested in is what's the price for you and for your customers. Then next most popular topics coming after that were the product and the back-end technology, and then an industry overview. So we're going to cover all of that in the webinar body itself before the Q&A at the end. Great, we've already got some questions coming in. Trudy's just asked a question, and Trudy, I'll get to that in just a moment. But so general structure is industry overview, then technology overview, then a product demo, although we'll probably be relatively light on the product demo piece, and then a Q&A. We'll try and keep it to an hour, but they usually go a little bit over that. And great, the questions are really starting to roll in, so I'm glad you've all found that. So let's dive right in. To give you just some background on SOS, we are one of the world's largest online backup companies by sort of most of the metrics these days. There's a bunch of first-tier vendors in the space, names like iBackup, SOS, Mozy, Carbonite. There's really a handful of companies with hundreds of thousands or millions of customers. Our threshold, sort of when we look at the major players in the space, is anybody with more than 100,000 customers is a major player. There's then thousands of people with a few customers, so it's a pretty fragmented space. What's special about SOS is we mainly focus on partners. So between 75 and 80% of our revenue comes from partners, comes from people like yourselves. What's new for us is that these days we're getting a lot of business coming out of Australia. So Australia has really recently become a hot market for online backup, or cloud backup, or whatever you want to call it. It's gone by a lot of names over the years. We started as an Australian company back in 2001 originally, moved to America in 2006, and what I find quite ironic is now here in 2012, Australia is one of the hottest markets around the world for online backup. So it's sort of full circle for us as a company today. Got some questions already rolling in. So Trudy's asking, if you're a reseller and your customer's data is lost, what's the remedy your company will employ and what guarantees are in place? So Trudy, you can hear a lot about this throughout the course of the webinar and the product demo. That's really the heart of what our product does. So we've got an offsite copy of your customer's data that we're replicating to multiple places around the world for exactly that customer scenario. John's got a question about data centers. Where are they? John, they're all around the world, but the one you're probably most interested in is in Melbourne. So we'll cover that later on. Rory's saying, use Shadow Protect extensively. Does the license you include allow the use of bare metal restored to different hardware? Rory, absolutely. And we're going to hear more about our partnership with StorageCraft for the Shadow Protect product as well. Tony asks, so the data centers in Australia, considering that there's some reasons for not hosting your backup data overseas. Tony, that's a really good discussion topic, and we'll talk about this. I would actually say there's many reasons to use our global data centers. They're far, far cheaper than doing things in Australia, but we've got an Australian data center which you can use. Keep the questions coming. I'm going to dive into the body of the presentation, which will answer a lot of these questions, and then I'll sort of pause as we go through the slides and answer them. All right. So at a high level, and I don't want to sort of bore you with too many statistics, we're in an interesting time in the cloud backup or online backup industry. We've got massive adoption going on in Western countries. Our hottest 4 markets are the United States, just by virtue of its size, Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom. So we're seeing pretty huge uptick among small businesses. When we say small businesses here, we're really talking sort of 100 to 1,000 employees. Back home, I know that sort of frame of reference is a little bit different. So that's actually a really good question for the audience, is what's the size of your, well, 2 questions for you all. Who are you selling to? So are you selling to home users? Are you selling to businesses? And how big are those businesses? I'm going to launch another one of these polls to ask the first question, who are you selling to? And then if you can use the questions tool to give us some feedback, what's the profile of the business you're selling to? Is it 20 employees? Is it 50 employees? Is it 2 employees? Are you selling to home users? Give us I'd like to get a flavor of the companies represented on today's call. All right, so 100% of respondents have said small businesses with between 2 and 50 employees. 27% have said small enterprises with between 50 and 1,000 employees. 57% of you have said home users. So it looks like we've got a good spread, but the one common thread for all of you is small businesses with between 2 and 50 employees. That is serendipitous, because that's sort of really where we came from as a company. When we launched, our target profile was a business with 20 employees. We've then gone both downstream and launched consumer offerings, and upstream and launched enterprise offerings. But we really started in that small business space, frankly, with just clients in the Melbourne metropolitan area once upon a time. These days we've got 500,000 accounts, millions of endpoints around the world, and obviously we've spread a little further than the suburbs of Melbourne. But so yeah, I think that's a good group today. If we had a lot of people who were just focused on consumers, we'd go one way with the presentation, but with this audience, we'll sort of stick to the regular deck. So thank you for participating in that. And I'll try and not pop too many more of these polls because they get annoying. Any other questions on company history? Just ask them. Otherwise, I'm going to sort of power ahead with the presentation and talk a little bit more about the industry trends we're seeing. There's a great white paper from IDC, which is a research firm that we can give you all access to. You can call in and ask for your partner specialist to give you the IDC white paper. And this white paper is a survey of CTOs and CIOs in Western countries, Canada, America, the United Kingdom, Australia, a few other countries besides. And boiling this 30-page report down to 2 really important numbers, you've got a pretty staggering spread between the number of small businesses, or the percentage of small businesses who are currently using online backup or offsite backup or cloud backup, whatever you want to call it. That number is 16%. And then you've got the percentage of companies who have already got a stated intention to deploy it inside their business in the next 24 months, and that number is 69%. So you've got this massive spread between the people who have already adopted online backup and those people who are planning on doing it or in the early evaluation or implementation phases. And that spread between those 2 numbers represents the business opportunity for everybody on today's call. Really, the crux of today's webinar is a pretty harsh message, but it's a good one for you all because you're here early. And the message is this: your clients are going to be using online backup. You can't stop that. It's going to happen this year. It's going to happen next year. What you can control is who they get it from and whether they get it from you. If you don't start offering cloud backup, remote backup, offsite backup, then your customers are going to move to this as a technology platform. It's cheaper for them. It's better data protection. So the key thing here is to get into the business and actually make sure that they're buying that from you, either as a standalone product offering from your company or as part of your managed suite of services.
And that's exactly why we call this webinar Capitalizing on the Cloud, because there's such a huge opportunity here for you to really change your business or enter into an entirely new business if you haven't already.
Right. And so within that 16%, the data sort of actually gets more interesting as you dig into it. If you look at the percentage of businesses that are using online backup for their primary data backup mechanism, it's less than 5%. So you've got a very small number of businesses who've really implemented this and adopted it as their primary backup medium. But as tape backup and disk backup recedes as sort of the industry-leading technologies, cloud backup's fast replacing it. I've got a ton of questions here that I want to just sort of spin through. Tony, I'll just answer that. Nathan asks, is the SharePoint backup granular, content DB, config backup, etc., or is it only image backup of the entire OS? Nathan, for the moment, it's just image backup of the entire OS, but we're going to have granular recovery of SharePoint soon. We do have very granular recovery of Exchange, so you can do full Exchange recovery at the database level, mailbox level, or even the message level. We're going to see that in the demo. Tony asks, again, are the data centers in Australia and New Zealand? Yes, Tony, we've got a Melbourne, Australia data center. Tony's also asking about the deployment pattern. Is it the local backup as well as cloud backup? And Tony, the answer is yes, we're doing both. We're going to see that again a little bit later in the presentation. Craig, where is the data located and are we aware of it? So Craig, you can actually choose to route your data to any of our global data centers. The default comes to America, and that's the least expensive for you and the most profitable for you. But you can actually specify which data center you want your data to go to. Tony says uploads are too slow, arguments for and against. Tony, I've got a slide on that. Amit asks, can you limit the backup data center to a particular country? Amit, yes, you can. Craig asks, can we rebrand it instead of SOS? Craig, all of our offerings by default are white labeled to you, so it would be Craig's Online Backup or something like that. It wouldn't be the SOS brand. A lot of partners these days are opting to co-brand with us, though, because of the awards and sort of the credibility SOS has built up around the brand. So it could be Craig's Online Backup powered by SOS. That'll let you use all of our standard marketing material, awards and product reviews, that sort of thing. Andrew says the version of Shadow Protect you supply is an older version. Are you going to upgrade to the newer version soon? Andrew, yeah, so it is an older version, but our attitude to that is the difference between 3.5 and 4.0 is negligible. When you look at our solution stack, and we're going to look at that, let's say there's 100 function points in the entire product. 5 of them are coming from Shadow Protect 3.5, right? And if we move to Shadow Protect 4.0, then 6 of them would be coming from it. So the better answer is that you're getting a bundled solution that does so much more than just what the Shadow Protect piece does, that the difference between 3.5 and 4.0 is pretty small. If you had some specific features there that you're asking about, I could probably give you a more specific answer. George says, what's the privacy policy as it rates highly as an objection to online backup? So George, great question. We've got this thing called UltraSafe, which is a security feature which uses private key encryption to encrypt the data in a way that we cannot get access to your data. So you can make it very clear to your customers, and you can take this from our marketing material and customize it for your customers that you can't see their data, we can't see their data, no one can see their data. And that's always been core to the SOS value proposition. And so again, that's the UltraSafe feature, George. Trudy says, we'll be selling to individuals and small businesses. Okay, great, Trudy. Paul says, for backup upload, is data detubed or just compressed somehow? Paul, we're deduping and we're compressing to minimize the data payload and optimize transfer speeds. Alan asks, some of our customers have concerns about security or having data stolen from online backup. How can I assure them that it is secure? So Alan, again, we're going to talk more about this in a few slides' time, but it's that private key encryption, that UltraSafe encryption, which is it's actually rated to be used by the US government to back up top secret military data. So NIST, N-I-S-T, is a government agency here that certifies encryption protocols for use by the NSA, CIA, and the other alphabet agencies for data encryption. And AES is the protocol promulgated by NIST for use by government agencies. I used to work for the US government. And the AES 256 is actually rated to back up top secret government data. So literally DoD data can be backed up with the SOS product. That, I think, goes beyond whatever any of your clients might need. And one thing I want to say about this is we went through this wave of fear around online backup in America about 4 years ago. And it's happening in Australia now because we're at the beginning of this huge adoption curve. So the objections that you're all going to bring up today, I predict, security, can people get at the data, transfer speeds, we can't do cloud backup because it's too slow, and profitability, we can't make any money doing this. All 3 are false. So if we achieve anything by the end of today's webinar, it's just sort of a discussion and education around these three concepts. It can be done completely securely. We do it completely securely. It can be done extremely profitably. So most of our partners are making 50 to 60% gross margin on this product. I don't know how many other products you've got in your sort of toolkit that you're making 60% on. Probably not many. And from a speed standpoint, transferring to America is actually very achievable these days with the broadband capacity in Australia. With the NBN rollout, that's only going to be sort of truer and truer as NBN really kicks in across the country. But even if you didn't want to talk about NBN, we've got an Australian data centre, so transfer speeds can be extremely fast. And the easiest way to believe this is to see it. Talk to your partner specialist about getting a trial. Evaluate it in your own environment. All right, so let's keep powering through these slides, and I'll come back to the question feed in just a moment. So what's driving this big business adoption? Some of the things we just hit on. So businesses are finally wrapping their heads around the fact that the cloud can be done securely. That's one thing. Secondly, bandwidth has just exploded. So the ability to push a terabyte of data over the wire, whereas once upon a time that couldn't be done, and you had to rely on our physical media upload service, where you send us a data on a disk, and you can absolutely do that, by the way. That used to be key. It's not true anymore. Most of the businesses, if we're looking at the audience today and who you all said you're selling to, small businesses with 2 to 50 employees, they're using broadband. They can happily push hundreds of gigabytes over the wire in a month-long period. The initial backup is going to take a little while, but the daily incremental is going to happen in minutes. So, the market is ready for this, particularly at the price point that it's now achieved, because that's the other big swing that's occurred. And it's, we used to have a slide on it. All right. We talk about this idea of the price functionality inflection point, which is a fancy way of saying that this is now a better backup at a better price. If you looked at what it would cost to deploy, say, StorageCraft at retail pricing using 4.0 that somebody asked about a moment ago, with, say, HateFeed gear and a tape array, that's going to be a $5,000 or $6,000 deployment for your customer. You can take the same amount of data and back it up with SOS, which is more secure, it's globally accessible, you can get to it from your iPhone, you can get to it from your Android, you can share it, it's encrypted to military standards, and all of that's going to be at a cost to your customer of about $1,000, and you, the partner, are going to make about 60%. So tape backup and disk-based backup and on-premises backup is going away. It's already in full swing here in America. It's starting to happen in Australia and New Zealand because bandwidth is so cheap now, because it is a better backup for your customers at a better price, and resellers and partners like you can make 60% gross margin on this. If you sell, well, here's a great question for the audience. When you sell hardware to your customers, what percent do you make? What profit margin do you make? Typically, it's 5, 6, 7% profit margin. Nothing like 60%. So the other thing is that the technology's just matured. You can now back up Exchange servers and SQL servers and SharePoint servers with cloud backup solutions, whereas 2 or 3 years ago, that was really only at the bleeding edge of the technology. And so George has written here that he's making between 5 and 10% on hardware that he sells. So George, how does 60% sound to you, right? And
also recurring.
Great point. So it's not 5 to 10% one time, or maybe they then come and buy some more hardware from you 4 years from now. It's 60% margin on a recurring monthly cash flow stream that you earn from your customer base that builds every month in an accretive sort of revenue pattern that becomes extremely powerful over 6 months, and even more powerful once you get to month 13, and those annual renewals start to flow into your business.
And as we'll see later on in the presentation, there's also a great amount of opportunity to increase your margin when you buy in bulk, when you buy your server licenses in bulk from us. The price definitely goes down and gives more margin opportunity for you.
Right. All right, so what is involved in the SOS Partner Program? The stepping back and just looking at what's involved in becoming an SOS partner, we sell you effectively a backup business in a box. Once upon a time, we actually called it that. So you get everything from our product to access to our cloud to sales and marketing material to trainings for your salespeople to co-marketing events where we can run marketing events like this one with your customers. Fully rebranded software so that all of our software can be completely white labeled to you. So picking on an audience member, we can have Tony Austin's Online Backup, and we can skin and brand that for you in a week and have you selling your own fully branded cloud backup solution a week from now. If we look at the whole program, all the key program elements, it looks like this. So you get rebranded client software. That's everything from server-based software to laptop and workstation backup software, mobile software. We've got clients for iPhone, Android, and then all the web portals and e-commerce integration. Rebranded marketing materials. We've got this entire library of marketing resources that we call the Partner Resource Center, which is filled with everything from a 13-page ebook on best practices in marketing online backup through to email marketing templates you can use to promote online backup to your customers and drip feed marketing messaging to your customers. Rebranded sales materials, so things like this webinar deck. We've got templates for everything from quote proposals through to a 40-page disaster recovery plan proposal that you can use when you're consulting with your customers to help you really address every stage of your sales and marketing funnel, whether it's driving interest, whether it's building the opportunity pipeline, closing your customers, retaining your customers, or upselling your customers. Online sales capability, so we'll do e-commerce out of the box. So if you're not yet taking credit cards through your website, we'll set all of that up for you. That takes about a week for us to do that. So if you don't have e-commerce capability, we'll solve that for you. If you do, then you can integrate with our system in two different ways. There's a manual account provisioning system and then a full API stack that you can hook into to create accounts and upgrade them and handle all of those account lifecycle events. Hosted billing, we can even bill customers for you and then remit cash payments to you. There's no hardware required. So if that's another early question we get sort of early in the evaluation phase, what sort of hardware do I need to buy to run this? You don't need to buy any hardware. We run the cloud for you. We can do it in a much bigger, faster, more scalable, and inexpensive way than you could ever do it on your own. And this also ties into where are the data centers, right? So most people from Australia who come and talk to us, the very first thing is data has to be in Australia. And by the time they sign up, I was looking at it earlier today, about 90% of them opt to have the data come to America. So you can keep it in Australia, but you'll find the speeds are roughly the same, but the costs to bring it to America are just dramatically lower than they are to keep the story in Australia. So you can actually offer it to your customers as both. You can give them one price point if they're going to keep the data onshore, and you can give them a different price point if they're willing to use a global data grid, which, by the way, is more secure and more redundant anyway. So I think you'll find most of your customers are fine with that. So we had a question earlier about where are our data centers. We've got data centers all around the world, but they're in London, in the UK. Here in the United States, we've got data centers all over. Los Angeles, Dallas, and Houston are the main places. Canada, we've got a data center in Toronto. Australia, it's in Melbourne. We've also got a data center in Chennai, India, and Kiev in the Ukraine. So you can opt to have your data go anywhere. I'm just going to turn to the questions now and answer a few more of these questions that have come in. All right, so we had a question here from Tony about NBN implications. Tony, NBN is just going to make bandwidth cheaper, and it's just going to accelerate the adoption of cloud backup. So one of the things we'll see later is the various deployment patterns you can take with SOS, so you can back up data locally first and then trickle feed it off-site to the cloud. That's important in low bandwidth environments. It'll become far less important as the NBN goes national. One of the other big things in Australia is still that our ISPs are charging for the amount of data that you transport over the network. Long term, I think that's going to go away. Australia's pretty unique in that regard. But short term, it's going to mean that features like our physical media upload service, where you send us the disk, is really important for your customers if they've got limited throughput. The other thing I'd say about NBN is it solves the asymmetry problem. In Australia, for the longest time, we've had this issue where a 5 megabit connection is 5 meg down and 500K up, and that's going away with NBN. For those of you, well, my American colleagues, NBN's fiber to the node, which has been rolled out across Australia, so every household in Australia will have fiber right to the last mile. So it is going to have big implications for the market, Tony, and they're already starting to be felt. Tim's got a question. What are SOS dealing with as a concerns for the business? Tim, give me a little more context. Not quite sure what you're getting at there. Adam asks data size limits. Adam, no data size limits. The SOS product is engineered to handle up to 3 million files in an individual account. You can then just have multiple accounts. So if you had more than 3 million files on a single computer, which is unlikely, you can just roll it with multiple accounts and it'd be fine. From a data size limit standpoint, the product will handle up to a 5 terabyte file, no local space requirements. So it only uses 50 megabytes of temporary space. It's got a streaming algorithm that handles very large files very well. So most of the cloud backup products out there have issues when you either get into a large number of files or really large individual files. We don't have those problems. So the product's really designed for small enterprise usage, and then we've dumbed down the product, for lack of better words, for our consumer customers. And so we've just made it a lot simpler for them to use, but the power of that enterprise product is still there. And the history of the company was selling to small enterprises and government right back in its early days. Tony's also asking about operating systems and platforms. Tony, it's pretty much the Microsoft stack. Our product will back up anything, but you've got to have at least one Windows machine on the network for this to all work.
Oh, looks like maybe we've lost sound.
Can you all hear us? Angus is saying he's lost sound. Can everybody else still hear us?
Yes, okay.
All right. Cool. And you're all paying attention too. That's great. So we'll look at deployment patterns, but basically you've got to have at least one Windows box on the network. That's really what it boils down to. I lost track of where we were.
You know, I think that maybe this would be a good time to go ahead and move into some of the feature set, because a lot of these questions are about the feature set of the product. And we've got a couple good grids to show you guys about what SOS Server Safe offers. Then we can look at the competitive landscape, and then we can get into a little demo. But before that, we will talk about pricing and about how much margin you guys can make.
All right, I think I'm being told to move along.
Well, we've got quite a lot of questions.
Which is great.
Which is awesome, and we love that. But I want to be sure that we can cover everything we need to cover with you guys.
Shaylin can be a little bit scary when I don't do what she says, so I'm going to move along, but I will come back to all the questions that you've got, so please keep asking them. So let's turn to the product. At a high level, SOS's product design philosophy looks like this. When we founded the company, we said that we would one day be able to back up fridges, literally. It was a joke inside the company, that one day we'd even be able to back up refrigerators. And the idea behind the joke was that no matter where data sat on the network, we were going to be able to get at it, we were going to be able to encrypt it, compress it, and ship it off-site and make sure you had an off-site backup copy available of that data. Well, since then, we've pushed into all sorts of places. We're backing up Facebook, we're backing up PCs and Macs, we're backing up laptops and workstations, we're backing up file servers, email servers, we're backing up iPhones, we're backing up Androids, and recently I saw an LG fridge that has been released with an Android operating system built into it. It's got an inventory of everything's in your fridge, right? And it'll like go offside and tell the internet you're out of milk, and it'll order milk for you. And so, no joke, we can now back up fridges.
I love that story.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And so, whimsical anecdote perhaps, but if you step back and look at our product design strategy, we cover 6 things. So I'm going to start at 11 o'clock on the clock. Back up your cloud life. More and more businesses' data is sitting in the cloud. So when I say the cloud, I'm talking about something like Salesforce.com, which has got rampant adoption. How do you back that up? Well, you've got vendor lock-in. Frankly, you can't back up Salesforce.com, but very soon you'll be able to use SOS to back it up. So cloud-to-cloud backup. Today we're backing up Facebook, which is really just a sort of an entree into where this is going, but you'll soon be able to back up your business cloud through that technology. Let's talk a little about what we have right now. So we've got a 9 o'clock on the clock, back up your desk life. This is just marketing speak for backing up workstations and endpoints, so laptops and workstations, PCs and Macs. And you'll notice that this plank is sort of blue and green. This just denotes what market the product's tailored to. So blue's consumer, green's business. Obviously, backing up endpoints, laptops, workstations, important for both consumers and businesses. Down here at 7 o'clock, we've got back up your mobile life. What are we talking about here? We're talking about backing up cell phones and tablets, iPhones and Androids. So we don't have Windows Phone support yet or BlackBerry. We're looking at those things, but 85% or something of the global smartphone market is sort of sitting on those 2 operating systems, Android and iPhone. This is going to become more important in the future. So one big thing to call out here is we're backing them up as well as giving you access to all your data. A lot of backup companies will claim they've got an iPhone app, claim they've got an Android app. Utter rubbish. They're not backing up the data on those mobile devices. They're all just giving you access to the data you have in the cloud. We're both backing it up and giving you access. So, you know, imagine having all of your clients' data up securely in the cloud and being able to get to it anywhere that you've got cell phone coverage. That's part of the SOS promise. Then we come around to the business solution. So backup file data, this is really your bread and butter of the online backup business. We're talking about backing up file servers in your customer sites. Now, what we call a file server may actually just be a Windows XP box sitting on the corner that the massive network shares to, but it's where their business data is sitting. This is really the core of any backup offering you'll sell. So typically when you'll sell this to your customers, you might set up a solution of you know, a 20-seat license, which comes with one server and 20 workstation and laptop backup seats, and it will usually be targeted at this file server. When you then go to 3 o'clock on the clock, we start to get what we call structured application data. We're talking about SQL Server and databases. We're talking about email servers and Exchange in particular. We're talking about SharePoint. This is the most valuable section of the market. It's also the most profitable section of the market. If your customers have on-premises SQL servers, on-premises Exchange servers, on-premises SharePoint servers, they will pay thousands of dollars a year to protect that data, because generally speaking, if they lost that data, they're going to go out of business. So again, let me just ask for some audience feedback. What are your customers running? Or put another way, what percentage of your customers actually have a server on site? So I've got the last of these annoying surveys here. So the question here is, how many servers are in your downstream? So if you take all your customers, how many servers are out there among those customers? If you had one customer with one server, you'd pick the first one. All right, 71% of you said 25 servers plus. Yeah. All right, so the stats are changing. We've got, so 50% of you are now saying 25 plus, 20% of you are saying between 10 and 25 servers. And then 24% of you are saying between 5 and 10, 14% of you are saying between 1 and 5. So we're skewed heavily toward 25 servers plus in your downstream. That's fantastic. That's really where the money is in this space. So, you know, if you think, one of the things we talk about with our sales reps when we're talking to prospects is, what's the value of your data? Or put another way, what would it cost you to rebuild that data? So when you're talking to your clients and you look at people who are running, say, SQL Server or Exchange Server, what would be the damage to their business if they lost their Exchange data? Well, the answer is tens of thousands of dollars. So will they pay you $1,000 a year to back it up? Absolutely, of course they will. And that's sort of the heart of the sales proposition for your customers. All right, thank you for being so patient with those polls, but it does help us keep the webinar relevant to our audience. And then the last thing, at 1 o'clock on the clock, is backing up system data. So here we're talking about taking bare metal images of operating systems. We're talking about virtualizing that and turning it into virtual machines. Our Cloud Boot offering, where you can then actually, let's say one of your customers has a complete site disaster, building burns down. We can actually bring back one of the images we've got. We can turn it into a virtual machine. We can boot it in the cloud, and we can give you RDP access to it. So literally hours after the building burns down, you can be running your client's Exchange server in our cloud off our virtual machine compute infrastructure for really true site disaster failover. And that gives you a holistic view of our product strategy. Let's sort of put some flesh on those bones and look at the core products. If you become a ServiceAid partner, you get this stack of technology. So the core of it is our Online Backup and Recovery Manager, which, not surprisingly, does all the cloud backup. So it's responsible for gathering the data, doing the compression, the encryption, getting it to the cloud, getting it back from the cloud. And you know, a lot of people think that's easy. It's really easy to do it with say 50,000 files, and to do it in a non-secure way. It gets very difficult to do it when you're talking about millions of files. It gets very difficult to do it when you're talking about 5 terabyte disk images. We're very good at doing this. We've won many awards over the years. Most notably, we've won 4 PC Magazine Editor's Choice Awards back-to-back, 2006, 8, 10, and 12. So what else comes in the product? We're going to see a demo of all these, so I'll spin through it pretty quickly. You get a central dashboard, which allows you to deploy up to 5,000 endpoints and manage them all centrally. So imagine being able to see all 5,000 laptops or workstations you're managing, set one central backup policy for all of them. That'd be the case if you're a system administrator at a big company. For you guys, it's more like having 5,000 seats downstream of you between 100 of your clients and still being able to manage all of those centrally, or maybe you're going to manage them in 100 different buckets. The Exchange backup and granular recovery, that's what we were talking about earlier with full database recovery, mailbox recovery, and even down to message level recovery. Bare Metal Image Creator, this is the technology we've formed a partnership with StorageCraft on, so this is powered by Shadow Protect's bare metal system. We really think it's the best bare metal backup product out there. Commonly, other bare metal products that we work with are Acronis TrueImage and Microsoft's own bare metal backup technology. The web integration package, which is the whole e-commerce integration, which we'll see, and then the mobile apps. So let me turn to some questions before we get into these comparison grids. Adam asks if the interface is customizable to theme this product as my own. Adam, yes. So as part of the standard partnership, we've got an art team that will take your design and logos and colors and rebrand the software, and there's 1,200 different things we change in the product to make it look like your brand. And then you can either sort of accept what we've done, or you can do a few revisions on it and customize it as you want. Trudy says, I'm entering the online backup space for the first time. I'm not an IT expert. I got by building simple open source sites. My question is, can a non-techie reseller be successful in this field? Would the technical boundaries be an issue? Trudy, a lot of our smaller resellers are non-technical, so you can really sell this in a self-service model. That'll become particularly true as the market becomes more and more aware of cloud backup and online backup. I don't think, Trudy, you'd be into sort of the hardcore application backup and recovery, but certainly for small micro businesses and home offices and consumers, why not? Craig says, what's the priority on support being different time zone? Do you have SLAs for us, or where's the liability like? Craig, we've got 24/5 support, so Monday through Friday you've got 24-hour coverage, and then on weekends it's level 2 and level 3 escalation. So on weekends there's on-call support. So effectively you've got round-the-clock support. Note that our support team is really for you, the partnership community. We don't support your customers, so you're doing level 1. Unless you co-brand. If you want to co-brand with us, then you can throw all of your support to us and we'll do that for you. Rob says, is there anything you can't back up? Toasters, Rob. We're still working on toasters.
Until LG makes an Android PowerPoint.
Angus says, can we go through the presentation and see what is covered? Ben had questions. Sure, Angus. All right, so lots of comments. Let me see if we've got any more questions relevant to this and then move on. Okay, so a few more slides and then we'll get to Q&A.
I do see that there's some questions about examples. When we go through the demo, it's going to be on a very case-by-case basis, so I think that that's probably going to help you understand what some examples might be.
Right. So just helping you understand the different product SKUs that SOS has got, because some of the stuff on our website can be a little bit confusing. There's 2 main offerings. So this is true of the partnership programs and of what we sell and what you would sell. There's SOS for Business, which is our core cloud backup file folder product, and then there's SOS Server Save, which is the full solution, which comes with the 5 products we were just talking about a second ago. If we look at the key differences, you'll see for SOS Business you've got the same security, so the same private key encryption, AES 256 bits, 8 megabit throughput, so one of the fastest upload speeds in the industry. We don't throttle. Mozy and Carbonite throttle your upload at 500 or 600 kilobits. We don't throttle. So if your connection will allow it, then we can transfer it more than 8 megabits. We've got plenty of partners who are transferring at 20 or 30 megabits to us. Backup to local drives, web access to files, so you can get to your files through a browser, mobile device access, get to all of your files on an iPhone or on an Android. SOS Forever Save, this is our built-in archiving system. So this is a little nerdy, but if you look at Mozy and Carbonite and a lot of the other players, when you're backing up data from a computer to the cloud, if you disconnect that device or if you stop backing up from that source node, they'll automatically remove the data from the cloud after 30 days. They do so because they say to keep it would then be an archive, and that's no longer a backup, and they're backup companies, not archiving companies. We here at SOS think that's rubbish because customers don't understand the difference between archiving and backup, and they think if they push data up to the cloud, it's going to stay in the cloud until they decide to delete it. So built into the product is archiving by default, which means you can back up data and know that it's going to stay in the cloud until you do anything to it. Now add to that our unlimited versioning system. So if you've got a file that's changing every day, and you're backing up every day, with Carbonite and Mozy, after 30 days, they'll stop keeping versions. So you'll only ever have the last 30 versions, which is extremely problematic if you need to roll back, say, to June last year to check out what data looked like for a tax return, for example. With SOS, every single version of the file is kept. So if you've got a file changing every day, after a year we'll have 365 versions. And that might sound like it's a lot to manage, but it's really not, because you can just, in our software, which we'll see in a moment, just pick the date you want to roll back to and recover to that date. In my personal account, I can roll my computers back to 2006, and we're really the only product on the market that I'm aware of that offers an unlimited version history by default and for free. Both of those features are for free, by the way. All right, so then some other highlights: social backup, mobile backup for iPhone and Android, sync through our new product SOS Collaborate, which is a sort of Dropbox, Box.net competitor, bare metal backup and recovery, transactionally consistent bare metal backup. So this is just saying that it's bare metal backup that's safe to use on databases, unlike something like Carbonite's bare metal backup, which would lead to transaction tears in your data, which you obviously don't want. System state and application data backup for Exchange, SQL, SharePoint, and then centralized management. So I'm going to blow through a few more of these slides. This is just the PC Magazine Editor's Choice Award that we won recently. It's our 4th one in a row. So again, do your research, do dig around. I think you'll find that we're one of the best products on the market, and I think you'll find that our wholesale program is the best partner program in the market for resellers. So I'm happy to thump the table and say it's the best online backup product on earth. I'm fairly biased, so you shouldn't listen to me on that. Go and look at the New York Times articles about us and all the reviews on the web. But when you look at our partner program and compare it to anybody else's, I think you'll find it stands head and shoulders above any other vendor in the space.
And I'll be very honest, as a marketing person, I've spent a lot of time calling our competitors and pretending to be customers and finding out information about how they construct their partner program. And it's very, very non-inclusive. Ours is holistic. That's why we call it the 360-degree partner program. It truly gives you everything that you need to do to run your business and doesn't nickel and dime you along the way. When we say that there's a monthly cost and that's the monthly cost in, that's really what we mean. We don't charge you for additional hardware. We don't charge you for additional services. It is a very, very clean and easy to understand program that gives you everything you need.
So let's take a look at the competitive landscape just briefly. This slide is an interesting one for you all as you're sort of formulating your distribution strategy. What it covers on the horizontal rows here are the different market segments you can go after. Consumer, micro business being 5 to 100, small business 100 plus, enterprise laptop fleets, and then enterprise servers. We break these out because they're very, very different markets, and often, as an IT supplier, you'll be the company that supplies servers to a large company, but you won't be the person who sells them laptops, or vice versa. So we break these out into 2 discrete categories. Along the top, you've then got the different types of backup that are out there and that are supported by SOS. So bare metal going up to the cloud, bare metal just staying local, just staying on-prem, SQL Server backup, Exchange Server backup, file and folder, online backup, and then mobile backup. This box sort of shows where SOS started as a company, which was file and folder backup focused on micro businesses and small businesses around 100 employees. This slide now sort of gives you an idea of what our partners are focusing on. So you can sort of take a pen to this slide and draw a circle around the things that you would be focusing on. From the feedback we got on the polls, most of you are in these 2 rows right here, so selling to micro businesses and small businesses, and more than half of you have more than 25 servers in your downstream. So most of you are going to go right across both of these rows: bare metal backup to the cloud, bare metal local on-prem, SQL Server backup, Exchange Server backup, file and folder backup for all your workstations, endpoints, and the servers, and then mobile backup too. So we're going to talk pricing for a moment, and I suspect I'll get questions here, and then we're going to do the product demo. So the way our partner program works is you effectively, there's a file folder program, but the main program is what we call our ServerSafe Partnership Program, which looks like this. There are 4 different entry points where you buy a 5-server bundle, which comes with 1,000 workstation and laptop seats, a 10-server bundle, which comes with 2,000 workstation or endpoint laptop seats, ServerSafe 15 servers, and so on. The recommended retail price for you to sell this at is $129 per month. So again, going back to what I said earlier, you go into your clients and they've got a server, so you sell them 1 ServerSafe license and maybe 50 endpoint licenses. Because you get 1,000 endpoint seats, the chances of you knocking up against that limit is really low. So what this represents for most partners of ours is actually 5 customers, right? Now, the base starting price that you should sell it at is $129 a month. In Australia, this is a lot higher. So in Australia, we've got partners selling it for $500 a month per server. And again, usually the way you price this, there's a lot of ways to price online backup. Our partners and we have found the simplest way is to price it around a server solution and bundle the endpoints around that. Because if a company has a server, you can bet they've got laptops and workstations, right? If they've just got laptops and workstations, then of course you can just sell them a solution around those endpoints. When I say endpoint, I really mean a laptop or a workstation. So just walking down this ServerSafe 5 program, you get 1,000 endpoint seats, 5 server seats, a terabyte in our cloud, and that can be anywhere you want it to be. The price to you is $400 a month. That is a cost of $80 a server. The retail price you should sell it at is a minimum of $129 a month. Like I said, we've got some partners in Australia selling it for $500 a month. So that's revenue per month for you of $645. Your margin per server that you're making is $49. Your margin per month that you're making is $246. As you buy volume, of course, these prices go right down. So most of our Australian partners are actually coming into the ServerSafe 10 program. And so the whole program is designed to really allow you to get bigger discounts as you buy in bulk. What else have we got here? There are some promotions we're running for Australia this month. Well, actually, these are the discussion points we had for our Australian partners. So we wanted to talk through bandwidth, throughput, and costs, and so we will sort of turn to the questions in a moment and talk about that. NBN and the implications of the NBN rollout. Speed, the local data center, get a trial, actually try out sending data to America because it's actually less expensive for you. Those prices I just quoted you are the American prices, so there's additional fees to send it to the Australian data center because it's just so much more expensive to run. The specials we've got going in April, there are 3, and you've got to pick one. Apparently you can't combine them. The first one is that if you sign in April and you're on this webinar, you can get half off your first payment. The second is if you sign up at this webinar, you can skip your second payment, but the best one is this, which is get 13 months of service for the price of 10. So you sign up this month and you came to this webinar, you're eligible for this. And this last point is really my big message, which is we're rapidly seeing Australia adopt online backup. A year ago there was no demand at all. There's now massive demand coming out of Australia. So there's really a watershed moment approaching where most of your customers are going to start asking for online backup and adopting it, and they are going to deploy someone else's solution if they don't buy it from you. So Richard says, are you aware that a new government in Australia is going to scrap the NBN? Richard, whether it's called the NBN or whether it's this government or another government, we're going to have fibre rollout across the country. It's already underway. NBN's available across the country. So, precarious political situation back home, sure, but the broadband crunch that has existed in Australia in the 90s and early noughties is going away. Australia is catching up with the rest of the world from a broadband standpoint. So, well, at least that's our view of it, and that's what we're seeing in terms of uptick in the Australian area. George says, can you highlight cost via an example? I have a client with SBS 2001 server and a SQL server that needs backing up. What is the cost to me, and what would be the RRP for this backup solution? George, great question. So let's go back to this slide. Let's assume that they're running on the same machine. So you would use 1 server license. So the cost to you would be $80 per month for that server. and you would sell it for anywhere from $130 a month all the way up to $500 a month. If they're running SBS and they're running SQL Server, my guess is you could happily charge $200 to $300 per month to back up that server and not have any problems. But the best answer for this is go and talk to your customers, right? So go and talk to your customers and say, I'm going to have a remote backup solution. I'm going to be able to back this up for you and manage it for you remotely. I'm thinking of charging $350 a month. We could set you up with on-premises backup, which should be unsafe and would cost you $6,000. What do you want to do? And you know, I'm happy to bet you your first month subscription with us that they're going to choose the $300 a month option. If you price it at $129 a month, well, it becomes a no-brainer. When we set out to build the ServerSave offering, which we launched in November of last year, we really had two key requirements. One was we wanted a breakout product in the market that could do everything that, say, a full backup exec stack could do. So SQL, Exchange, SharePoint, bare metal, file folder to the cloud. But we wanted to do it for literally 1/10 of the price of their cloud. We did that. We had written up on the wall for about 3 months a Ninja partner price, which we think we did with the $80 a month per server as the entry price point. So I think talk to your customers, find out how much they'll pay, but hundreds of dollars per month per server is usually the answer. Craig says, I understand you can opt to have your data anywhere in the chosen data center. However, you would back up your data, so how widespread does the data become, i.e. a law firm or medical in Australia has laws to abide to? Craig, I'm not familiar with the regulations in Australia. I think they mimic the HIPAA regulations, which don't require the data to be maintained in multiple off-site locations. They just require it to be maintained in an off-site location. I could be wrong about that, but my understanding is that legislation was written based on the HIPAA template here, which is the Health Information Portability and Accountability Act. And the regulation just got to be encrypted, it's got to be versioned, it's got to be archived, it's got to be off-site. So all of those requirements are met. If there is regulation in Australia that requires multiple data center replication, then you can do that with us. But I don't think that is the requirement. Richard, okay, sorry. Patrick says, so hardware is required, smiley face. Patrick, not sure where I said that. If I did, I misspoke. No hardware is required to get going with our partner program at all. Although a lot of our partners actually opt to sell online backup via an appliance, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So it's a really great way to sell it, but it's not required. Patrick says mainly Mac servers though and Mac clients. Okay, Patrick. So we've got a Mac technology stack that is going to be attractive to you, iPad, iPhone, and Mac support. George wrote, sorry, 25 plus downstream, misunderstood the question, okay. Rob asks if we back up Google Apps. Rob, not yet, but we're looking at it. Rory asks, anyone using Snapshot with SOS? Rory, not that I know of, but let us follow up and get back to you on that. Alan couldn't hear us for a moment. Craig asks if we back up MySQL databases. Craig, yeah, we can back up nearly anything. So long as SOS can get network access to the data, it can back it up. So if you make the MySQL database, let's say you're running on Linux, if you make that available via a Samba share on the network, then we can back it up. If you're running on Windows, it's no problem. We'll just do native backup of that. James asks, what time zone is the 9 to 5 p.m. support? I mean, from New Zealand, does that mean I have 7 to 3 p.m. support? James, that's kind of a misnomer. We have like an express hotline here in America that runs 9 to 5. There's 24/5 support with then on-call support on the weekends. It's effectively 24/7. But we've got this hotline here in America, frankly, because Americans want to talk to Americans. So our support is run out of our Indian offshore operations center. They do fantastic work. But in the American market, there's a lot of sensitivity to talking to people who aren't somewhere in the 50 United States. So frankly, that's really marketing positioning more than it is about giving you good quality of support and service. Craig writes, what's the entry-level startup cost per month? So Craig, entry-level is $400 per month, and then the downstream revenue for you on that is $645 a month. Melina asks, can the US Patriot Act have any impact on the data stored in the US? Melina, yes and no. I mean, this was interesting in the early days here. This was a big fear. In 11 years of business, we've never had a single request for data recovery by the FBI or any other US government agency. So this is mainly an irrational fear from your customers. But you've got to educate them on that, right? They don't like being told they're irrational. So you've got to walk them through that. But in 11 years of business, we've never, ever been requested to provide data. And even if we were, we can't do it, right? So going back to that feature we talked about earlier, the ultra-safe encryption, we cannot decrypt customer data when it's encrypted with ultra-safe, even if we want to. So we've got no way of complying with any sort of government subpoena that might be handed down, which never actually has materialized. On top of all that, if you had customers who were really paranoid about this, then you could just have the data routed to a non-US data center. So you can pick London, Toronto, Melbourne, or any of the others. Hope that answers the question. Tony says home users tend to be most active on weekends. Is your reduced support at weekends not a potentially big issue for them? Tony, we've got 24/7 support for consumers, so that's not a big issue. And if you were co-branded with us, there'd be no problem here. If you're doing a full white label, then you would handle the support yourself. And Tony, Tony's got a lot of questions. Shaylin Herrick's going to follow up with you, Tony, on some of those other questions here. She's got some good answers for you. Patrick writes, can you do bare metal Mac backup? No, we can't, Patrick. You found something we can't do yet. We don't do bare metal on Mac. George says, can you sell the endpoints separately, i.e. a workstation for home users? Absolutely, George. So in this bundle here, you get 5 servers, you get 1,000 endpoints. You may not choose to use the server licenses at all, but we've got a whole lot of program for that, which is our file folder backup program, which has got some slightly different details. But George, I think if I remember correctly, you said you had servers downstream of you, so you would definitely want to be looking at the server save programs, not the file folder programs. Angus writes, do these prices include bandwidth, in particular the backups to Melbourne? Angus, we wear all the bandwidth costs to you, so transfer is free, but in and out. Unlimited versioning is free. Built-in archiving is free. Damien writes, do you also need Shadow Protect license on top of that price? Damien, absolutely not. And this is key. So I don't know how many of you all are using Shadow Protect, and I'd love to hear if you are using Shadow Protect. I'm told that Shadow Protect is very popular among our partners in Australia. The retail price for Shadow Protect server license is like $2,000, and you're getting Shadow Protect licenses just as part of this. So you're getting cloud backup for servers, file servers, Exchange backup and recovery, Exchange granular recovery, the whole Shadow Protect solution stack, and you're getting it all for $80 per month. So the price of getting like a 5-pack from us is the same price as getting a single server license from Shadow Protect. Lots of people familiar with Shadow Protect, which is great. Melina's asking, are you able to increase on the terabyte in the first category? Melina, yeah, we sell storage packs on top of these programs. So basically, you buy one of these and then you add storage packs on top of it. And the storage packs cost $1.20 per gigabyte per year. So,
and they come in whatever size you like.
Right.
I mean, we would recommend adding them on in 250 gigabyte increments, but if you want 280,
right,
that's yours.
And just to give you a point of reference, the going rate for cloud backup in Australia is about $10 per gigabyte per year, and you're buying it from us for $1.20 per gigabyte per year. So that part of your business is wildly profitable. Patrick says, well, you need a Windows machine. Patrick, you are right. You need, to get the full solution stack, you need at least one Windows machine in the network. We've got a full Mac product stack, but the more powerful features require a Windows machine somewhere in the network. George says, so in the ServerSafe 5 package, I can sell 5 server backups to different clients at, say, $120 per server, and 1,000 more workstations to separate workstation users at $10 per month, giving me a total revenue of $10,000 per month. Is this the case? George, you ask fantastic questions. Yes, George, you can, for a cost to us of $400 a month, you could derive $10,000 in revenue if you, in fact, sold at the prices that you just listed. So, yeah. Now, I do not think everybody on the call is going to go and do that, so let me be clear about that. But I do think everybody on the call can sell the ServerSafe licenses for $300 to $400 per month per server. So a more realistic example would be making $2,000 a month in revenue with a cost of $400 a month to us. But having said that, we do have some partners who sell their products for their online backup products for ridiculously high prices, like $18, $19, $20 per gigabyte per year. And therefore, your scenario would be completely valid. $10,000 in revenue per month for a cost of $400. I bet you're not getting that on any of your other services. Ray writes, how do you handle the backup requirement for SQL if the transactional data is in use, i.e. 24/7 transactional online database? Data at the start of the backup is not going to be the same as data at the end. How do you tackle writes in progress? So Ray, we take a transactional snapshot. So for about 30 seconds, we are pausing the database operations, but it's completely transparent to any downstream applications. So it's hooking into the Microsoft Volume Shadow Copy Services stack to do that, which is all a fancy way of saying it will be a transactionally consistent backup. You're not going to get any data tears with our bare metal backup technology. I can elaborate on that, Ray, if that's not clear. Craig writes, with the website package, who owns the site? Craig, you do. We build it for you, skin it, give it to you, and then you can run it. Alan asks, when I start with ServerSafe 5 and I want to upgrade to ServerSafe 10, do you charge for the upgrade or simply charge the monthly price? Alan, we just change the monthly bill that you're getting. So I know that the answer to that is, well, why would I ever do Server 10? Why wouldn't I just start at Server 5 and grow into it? You can do it that way, but you can save a lot of money by jumping straight into the Server 10 or Server 25. Server 10 is becoming one of our more popular offerings because of that. So there's built-in price discounts as you go to the right on this slide. Trudy says, Ken, please explain more about the co-brand options, please. Trudy, I will in a moment when we go to the demo. George says, is there a price difference between white label and co-branding? George, there is not presently. You can do either. So it's more of a branding and marketing decision that you make. If you decide that the SOS brand is powerful, and certainly a lot of partners think that, then you would want to co-brand. You can then also take advantage of the fact that we'll do all the customer support for you. If you don't want your downstream customers to know we exist, then you can fully white label. I would say this though, more and more your customers know about the cloud and are sophisticated buyers and may not want to buy georgesonlinebackup.com.au. They may actually really be interested in knowing about the fact that SOS is the partner standing behind your product offering. Andrew says, is there a different cost for white label? And no, there's not. Same question from two people moments apart. Crazy.
You guys must be hanging out.
Cameron writes, AV retail for individual workstation laptop service home user. Cameron, I'm not quite sure. Average retail. Our average retail sale value is $114. So, and we sell to consumers. $114 US is our ASP in that channel. Andrew, oh sorry. Okay, so yeah, a lot of partners using Shadow Protect. Angus writes, you mentioned earlier that there is a premium price for backups to Australia. What are they? So Angus, there's, I'm actually fuzzy on the details of that right now. So if you talk to your partner specialist about this, there's a different per gigabyte price. Basically, the cloud space costs more when you're going to Australia. So that $1.20 that I quoted you earlier, that is not for the Australian data center. Again, what most of our partners do is they give their clients the option. They say you can get this offshore with replication and all those benefits, and it's this price. Let's say you didn't mark it up at all. You could sell for $1.20 per gig year, and you can do it in Australia, and it's twice as expensive. Most of your customers are going to opt to go offshore. Okay, all right. So that's all the questions we've got on the line for the moment. Lots of questions about the premium for the Australian data center. I apologize for not having that data off the top of my head. Please do call in and talk to your partner specialist about that, because they've got the most up-to-date pricing on hand.
The entry-level price, by the way, we have a question about whether or not that is U.S. dollars. That is U.S. dollars. It's not New Zealand or Australia. It's
right.
U.S.
And I was going to reprice this slide for you all today, but we're pretty much at parity right now. So the Australian market will sustain a much higher retail price point than over here. Here in America, most partners are selling for like $150 or $200 a month, but in Australia, that's significantly higher.
George, I love that your clients will buy what you recommend.
Right, but that's, to be frank, that's the experience of most of our partners. Most of our partners have a trusted advisor relationship with their customers, and most of their customers will buy the solution they recommend. So George, the great thing here is you can recommend a best-in-breed product, which gives your customers a better backup than what they have right now, with all sorts of ancillary benefits like roaming access to data on their mobile phone, and you can make 60% while you're doing it, which is a really nice win-win situation. All right, let's go to the product demo because we're way over time. So I'm going to do a flyby demonstration today, which is going to underserve it a little bit. But do call in and get a demo from your partner specialist. Do you all know who your partner specialist is? This is a really important question. So every one of you has a partner specialist already assigned to you. Please type now whether you do or not, and Shaylin will go line by line through your responses and make sure you all get contacted. Shaylin's loving me right now.
No, I will do it. I will absolutely do it.
So if you do not know who your partner specialist is, please type up now. All right, so in the product demo, what are we going to see? We're going to see the Core SOS dashboard for partners, which lets you manage your backup business and lets you monitor your backups and run your backups through the central management portal. We're then going to do a quick backup of the file server to the cloud. We're going to look at an Exchange recovery, and then we're going to look at our sort of recovery and reporting portal that your customers see. So again, I'm going to be underserving this. So please do talk to your partner specialist and get a better demo than the one I'm about to give you, but I'll spin through this as quickly as I can. All right, so this diagram is probably pretty important. So if you haven't been looking at your screen, now's a good time to look at your screen, because here we sort of diagram out the different ways of deploying the product. There are three scenarios depicted here. The right-hand side of this diagram is the SOS Cloud. You can probably ignore it, although for those of you who want to nerd out on the details, this is sort of the architecture, the way our network runs with. You could picture each of these clusters in different data centers. You've got then any number of storage boxes sitting behind front-end backup server clusters. We've got these 8 customer data centers around the world, 11 data centers in total. And so each of these sort of gray boxes here can represent a country-based data center. So let's consider this one up here, the Melbourne data center. Down the bottom left here, we've got all sorts of small endpoints, Macs, PC laptops, Windows laptops, iPhones, Androids, tablets, doesn't matter. For small data payloads, these are going to be backed up directly from the device to the SOS Cloud. So no intermediate environment, really not a lot of complexity here. They're all going to run different pieces of SOS software back up to the SOS Cloud. Let's look at a company environment. So this is one of your customers, right? They're going to have all these devices. So we could actually picture this whole left-hand side of the diagram to be one of your clients. We're going to back up all their laptops and PCs and workstations directly to the cloud with no complexity. But when we look at the servers, we've got a few different deployment patterns we could use. If we look at, say, a small server, when we say small, we're talking about data payloads of less than 1 terabyte. These servers are going to back up directly to the SOS Cloud usually. If you've got data payloads bigger than that, or if you've got bandwidth concerns, which most of you have, then you can follow this 2-step deployment pattern. And this is where the appliance thing comes in. So you would run SOS software on the file server. You then have a new box on the network, which we're going to call the SOS staging server for the moment. And we're going to back up from the file server to the staging server, and then we're going to trickle feed from the staging server to the cloud, right? And then it's going to replicate within our cloud. Now, one of the things that a lot of our partners do is actually sell this piece of hardware. So you don't have to sell this as an appliance-based solution. You can just sell it as straight software. But a lot of our partners like to sell this to their customers for, say, $3,000. It's got a lot of local storage, so you're then selling both an on-site backup as well as an off-site backup. So then let me ask all of you all this. Could you sell your customers a 5 terabyte backup appliance that backs up all their devices to it on the local network and then provides cloud replication? And could you sell that for, say, $2,000? While you're all thinking about that, let me just, Milena says easy. I like the confidence, Milena. Craig says easily. Lucas says of course. Great, all right. Well, we've got more answers rolling in. So everybody who's speaking up says they can definitely sell that for $2,000. Okay, terrific. Well, your cost on that white box is like $500-600, guys. So right there you can make $1,500 off the bat, and that's before you even get to the monthly service fees that you'd then be selling. So you'd then attach to that a monthly contract to back up all those pieces within the network. So basically servers and endpoints is how I break it down. So if you think about ServerSave, right, in this scenario we've got 3 servers, a file server, an email server, and a database server. You could deploy this in one of 2 ways. You could just use one ServerSave license for the whole company and really stiff us but make a lot more revenue for yourself, and that's fine. We totally encourage that. Or you could actually deploy ServerSave on all 3 of these and use 3 of your licenses. Obviously the first model wildly profitable for you as the reseller. All right, so that in the demo, we're going to see both these things. We're going to see us backing up a server straight to the cloud, and we're going to see backing up through a staging environment. Question here from John, do you need a Windows box or can you use a Synology NAS? John's got to be a Windows box. We actually need to run our software on it. Okay, bear with me while I get this demo going.
And while Ken's getting that ready, if you do have more questions, which I bet you do, I am happy to try to answer them for you.
All right, so on screen here, and it's probably a little bit small, we've got the Core Backup and Recovery Manager, which is sort of the heart of the product. I said I was going to start with the dashboard, so let me do that because it's probably more interesting to all of you. So the dashboard is really what you run your backup business through. It looks like this. So we've got some updates on news, some partner resources, and then the most interesting parts of the dashboard are really this module here, the online backup and recovery, and then the server backup and recovery. So you can see this particular partner has got, and this is a demo partner. And again, call in and talk to your partner rep, your partner specialist. You can get access to this. You can play around with it. This particular partner has got a petabyte in our cloud. And so they can go in and they can manage their full backup business right here. So let me just move a few things around. So here you can see my full users list. I'm going to go up to the admin dashboard. This is what you see as a reseller. So you can see how much of your cloud that you've used, all of your recent signups from your customers. So to Melena's question about selling this earlier on their website, Melena, you'd log in here and you'd see all your signups every day, upgrades that your customers are doing, cancellation requests. You probably want to call those customers. And this just gives you a quick snapshot. We can then actually go through and manage all of our users on an individual basis. Different actions you can take right in here, so you can upgrade account, edit it, delete it, reset it. Of course, provision new accounts if you're doing manual provisioning for your customers. You can skew up all of your different offerings. So within here, we'll see all of this is back-end stuff. Your customers would never see this. This is your price list that you're going to actually show on your website, right? There's a full content manager in here. So somebody asked me earlier, who built the website? We build it and then we set it up for you and turn it over to you. But you've got a full CMS, so you can, on an ongoing basis, you can then edit content. So once the full rebranded site has been delivered to you, it's not static content. You can then change it as much as you like. And I think we can click on this and get a preview of how that looks. So this is a pretty ugly page, but it's a demo of the terms and conditions page. And by the way, terms and conditions pages usually are pretty ugly. Back here in the dashboard, I could edit this right now in real time and change this. For those of you who've got web development chops, you can just build your own website. There's no need to use the brochureware websites that come out of the box, and we can skin all of this to you. This is just a generic example that we've got. So full content manager, a support ticket and case management system. For those of you who don't have your own sort of ticketing system, this is really cool. So you can handle all of your support cases with your customers right here in the product. There is a simple email marketing manager built into the product here as well, so you can upload your customer lists and set up drip campaigns in here, see who opened your emails, see who clicked on them. There's subscriber groups, and you can manage your subscribers all built into this. So quite a nice little email marketing tool here that, frankly, you could go and get another solution for email marketing, but it'll cost you $50 a month, $100 a month. This is built in, it's free. Gateways, for those of you who aren't e-commerce enabled, we support Authorize.net, PayPal Pro, PayPal Standard, eWay. It's a lot of words to say that we can accept credit cards in Aussie dollars and help you bill. That money will go straight into your bank account, so there's no commission or anything, just goes straight into your bank account. I had a question here about whether or not this was meant to finish at midday from Tim. Tim, it absolutely was, but we're going to keep pushing through because it looks like we've still got active interest. So for those of you who've got to go, I apologize it's gone over time, but we're going to keep going with the demo now and keep handling questions. So hopefully some of you can stick around. So this is really the dashboard through which you manage your whole backup business. There's a lot going on in here, and you should really get a proper demo from your partner specialist. But you can manage your e-commerce, manage your support tickets, manage your email marketing, manage your backup plans. Trudy's asking, got a question here, can the website template be customized? Trudy, absolutely. Tony wants me to keep going. All right, Tony. Craig asks, how much of this website data stats relay back to you? Craig, I mean, it's all sitting on our system, but we don't look at it. It's sort of your backup business, but it's all hosted on our cloud. Andrew says that backup device could be a NAS, but the file server runs the program. Is this right? Andrew, yes and no. You can do what you said, but the thing I was talking about with the backup appliance, that would be a Windows box. It could be running Windows 7 or Windows XP, but it's got to be running one Windows operating system. Typically, that'd be like a white label, cheap, inexpensive Windows machine with a whole bunch of internal SATA drives, so 4 terabyte Hitachi SATA 2 disks, right? Some questions here about who the partner specialist is. If you don't know who your partner specialist is, Sharon's going to get them to you. So Tim writes, client concerns of online backup require to be worked through. Your pricing model provides value on the assumption you have the server licenses filled. Anything to provide partners a way to buy licenses singularly. Tim, start with the file folder program if you really don't have any servers in your downstream. But I'm willing to bet you if you go and talk to your customers, you have at least one that's ready to buy this. If you had 2, then you're at break even immediately right there. Trudy asks if our marketing material include video promo. Trudy, it doesn't at the moment. Patrick writes, how does accounts get paid being in US dollars? Credit card account, or is there an Oz price that is transferred to a local bank? Patrick, your customers pay you in Aussie dollars if you're using our e-commerce systems. You pay us in US dollars, and we hit your credit card. Which I know is terribly ironic given that we were an Australian company when we started. Richard asks, is the cloud space the total number of server licenses in the package or per server? Richard, it's pooled across all of the endpoints. Okay, great. So that's all the questions we've got on the line for the moment. So let's go back to the dashboard. We've got questions here about whether or not it shows endpoint information or whether it just includes business information. Let's go across to the actual backup management piece of this. So you've got the 3 different modules here. One is managing your backup business on the left. On the right is managing your backups, and at the bottom is managing your licenses. So really, backup business, backup management, license management. We should probably relabel them. So let's go into the sort of new management dashboard, which gives you a very granular look at all the backups you're running in your downstream. What this does is all the accounts that are under you, so up to 5,000 accounts can be monitored through this interface. So it's a single pane of glass to do central backup policy management as well as reporting. What we'll see here is that we had a whole bunch of backups with red alerts on them. So, for example, this backup failed, this backup completed, but there hasn't been any backup in the last week. So our system interprets that as a red light event that you should look at and pay attention to. I can mouse over this little plus here and get a whole bunch of additional information. This is real time. If there were backups running right now in your network, we would see real-time status events from those downstreams. Again, you can manage up to 5,000 endpoints with this management system. Again, this is just the sort of the stoplight system that gives you a snapshot. If you wanted to go in and really see all the details, then our Pulse management system sits behind that. So there we can see all of our backup accounts. We can see all of our deployments. The deployment is basically an account installed on a machine, which I know is complicated, but if you consider the fact that on a server you might have multiple accounts, that is multiple deployments. So generally you've got one deployment per machine. But through Pulse you can manage all your client machines and deployments. You can get reports, so you can see detailed backup session reports, see on a machine by machine level or a computer by computer level the backups that have run and the details of the backups. You can go in and see detailed error logs if you like. The most sort of requested feature is really the policy management. Excuse me. So you can define a policy centrally, which might be to back up, say, the desktop folder on the C drive of any machine, and then add any computer in your downstream into that particular policy. So then every time when they run their backups, they'll check them with the cloud to see if there's a new policy and apply it if there is. So this is critical for managing distributed environments. It's critical for large businesses and fairly important for you as a reseller to be able to provide managed services to your downstream. If you've only got a few clients, then this is probably less important to you. All right, so then let's actually look at the backup software itself. Again, I'm sort of short-serving this demo, but we're way over time at this point. On screen here, we've got the Online Backup and Recovery Manager. In the background here, I've got our Exchange Granular Recovery tool. So I'm just going to walk through doing a brief backup demo and then a brief Exchange recovery demo to give you the flavor of it. I'm going to set up just an online backup. You'll notice on the previous screen that there was a full local backup system as well. So with this tool, I can do online backup as well as local backup, and I can do my recovery from the cloud or recovery from local storage. Let's just walk through a quick online backup. I'm going to specify what it is that I want to actually back up. In this case, we've got a whole lot of image data. So you can see here we're doing a whole lot of Shadow Protect image files. You can turn on continuous data protection. So Live Protect's a feature where it'll monitor a file. Every time the file changes, it'll back it up to the cloud. But I'm just going to click through here, accept the defaults. I can set it up to back up under a domain account, so it can run when I'm not logged into the machine, or it can run by default. It runs under the Windows user account it was installed under. Set it up to send me backup email reports, so I can get an email at the end of every single backup, or whatever errors that occurred. I can set up my backup hourly, daily, weekly, monthly. I can put multiple email addresses in here. This is then going to. It's actually starting the backup. You can see it down in the bottom right-hand corner. The backup's running, very unobtrusive. Backup is actually now finished running. My backup email report just arrived. It's on the other screen, but just drag it across. So we can quickly see here that I ran under this account on this machine at this time, and it scanned 309 files. None of them had changed, so it actually did nothing. If there had been errors, it would show up here. It would also show up in your management portal. So that was a simulated backup. Let's look at a restore, because that's sort of more important. The
backup is only as good as it's restored.
Absolutely. So the first thing you'll notice about restore is sort of this calendar view. The bold dates represent when backups ran. So I can, on this screen, I can sort of zoom out and pick whenever I want to roll back to. It's a handy interface. You can search for things. You can filter the recovery view by file size, by file type. But here's why this is super important. Because we keep every version of every file, you very quickly end up with hundreds of thousands of files in every account. And managing that through our classic view or just through an Explorer window is impossible. With this, you don't need to worry about versions. You just pick the date you want to recover as of, click Next, let it render. And you'll see here we've got about 20 servers that we're backing up in this particular machine. A lot of these are just running volumes. Some of these are backed up Exchange. You can see this mailbox data backup here. Now I can do a full system recovery of any of these, or just the ones, just some of them that I'm interested in. But what's sort of cooler about this is the ability to do system group snapshot-based restores over a large number of devices. So let's say I've got a server group and I want to recover it back to the 29th of November. Let's have a look at our data environment then. Oh, hang on. So let's go to December. In December, we only had like 8 servers connected to this account, right? Whereas a moment ago we saw that as of today we've got about 20. What's nice about SOS is because you get this snapshot across the entire group of machines, you can recover an entire group of machines, which is great for a site-level disaster, great if you had a virus on the network, but mainly just useful as a system administrator to be able to get to all of your devices through one application, one single pane of glass, and not need to log into lots of different computers. I can recover down this entire machine, or I can recover down just a disk, or just a folder, or a file, and I can even drill down, if I really wanted to, and get to specific versions. This particular file doesn't have any versions, so that kind of neuters my demo a little bit. But if it did have versions, I'd actually be able to specifically request which version I wanted to pull down. A lot of other ways to recover. So you can go to the web portal, and again, this is available anywhere. You can sort of, this dialog box is just popping up because we're running Internet Explorer on a Windows server, and it doesn't like that. If we use Firefox, we don't have any, you don't get that pop up. But here's the web-based recovery interface. You'll notice that this interface is a bit drab, and it's got the Acme brand on it. This is just to highlight that we can rebrand anything. So this is a little tip of the hat to Wiley Cody, but ignore this. This is where your branding would go, and you'd have your color scheme here. Again, we can see all the different machines in the network, and you can browse any of those machines right here through the web-based portal. Your customers can use this too, by the way. So everything we're dealing with right now, your customers would actually handle themselves. There's also reporting in here for your customers so they can get machine backup reports, see which machine's backed up when. They can do more fine-grained reports over time ranges. They can share files through here. So as I drill into my different computers, again, I'm getting that IE error. I can actually share folders or files right from in here and manage those shares as well. So web-based tool for user-level recovery and sharing, and you, of course, can use this also. Last thing I'm going to demo is our Exchange granular recovery. So let's imagine that you've got an Exchange server that's died and you want to do a recovery. I can fire up our EGR product, Exchange granular recovery, and do a few different things. If I wanted to, I've already set this up before the demo, but all I did was I opened a source. So I opened up a file I backed up with SOS. It then figures out where all the logs are. It sets up a temporary folder to work with. And I'm getting an error because I've already done it. It's now giving me all the users in that mailbox, I beg your pardon, all the users in that Exchange database and each of their mailboxes. I can open up their mailbox and get everything within that. So I can actually drill down and look at calendars, contacts, inboxes. I can even just open a message if I'm snooping around. But a far more common example would be needing to do a recovery of a specific email that a user deleted accidentally. So I'm going to open up the search tool, search for Nortel, and hang on, find now. Here are all the emails in that recovered Exchange database that had Nortel in them. So I can now grab one of those emails and I can drag it down to a different user's folder, and it'll just magically figure out where to put it, and boom, I'm done. So that, you just saw me do an email level recovery to a live Exchange server. So down the bottom here, I'm running there's a live production Exchange server. At the top here is an Exchange server I backed up with SOS. Now you can also do full mailbox restores. So I can just grab user 3 here and just drop it onto the live production Exchange server, and that'll recover it. I'm not going to do that though because I've already done it once. Or I could do the entire database. So if I wanted to just do an entire Exchange recovery, of course it's going to take a lot more time. It's going to ask me if it wants to create any mailboxes that don't exist on the new production server, and I can say yes, and then this is to create the mailboxes. It'll recreate all the mailboxes and populate the entire database. So that I really zoomed through that. But the important thing to note is that for Exchange backup, we've got extremely granular recovery all the way down to the sort of the brick level, which could be calendar items, contacts, even messages, full search across an entire Exchange database, and then you can do your recovery at the full database level, at the mailbox level, or the message level. All right, so 50% of the audience is ignoring us. Let's see if me saying that changes anything. We're at the end of the webinar, so now's the time to ask your questions. I apologize for it going so long, but you've seen an abbreviated product demo. What I'd like to do now is just answer any questions that we haven't sort of handled throughout the course of the webinar about pricing, about our product, really about anything you'd like. We've got a whole bunch of questions here on the line. So let me just scroll up and start answering these. Okay, for all of you who said you didn't know your partner specialist, Shaylin will make sure that they all contact you. It's going to be tomorrow because we're the only ones left in the office here in LA at the moment.
I think we left off probably with Tony Austin and his question, I would never sell something that I hadn't tried myself and become enamored, confident, and trusting with.
Great.
Can our prospective partners do a trial?
Of course.
Yes, you totally can.
And that, I mean, that sort of is the ultimate answer to the speed question as well. I'd recommend everybody on today's webinar call in and get a trial, get a demo environment, play around with the product, get comfortable with the speed, get comfortable with the technology. The Shadow Protect product, you can actually just download Shadow Protect and get a free evaluation. That's just the bare metal piece. It's better to talk to one of our partner specialists and get a trial of the full cloud backup and recovery solution. Tony writes, oh, okay, so we've answered all these. Nathan's wants us to keep going. Lucas says, does this dashboard show client endpoint information for backups? Lucas, tell me if the demo answered that or not. Otherwise, I can talk to it in more specificity. Nathan writes, does the ServerSafe 5 package also include the bare metal backup for the 1,000 workstations and laptops? Nathan, it includes bare metal backup for the 5 servers. It does not include bare metal backup for the workstations. We don't recommend doing bare metal backup for 1,000 workstations. The data payload associated with that is just completely out of control, and most of that data is garbage data. Most of that data simply does not need to be backed up. So our recommendation with endpoints, laptops and workstations, is to use file folder backup, use our data discovery engine. It's going to find all the most important data, and not to use bare metal on all of those endpoints. George writes, can I get a trial account for say 3 months so I can trial it with our server? George, I don't know about 3 months, mate, but
we typically offer trials for 30 days, which I think will be plenty of time for you to try it out on your server.
Absolutely. Craig writes, will the agent report if stopped and restarted via emails? Craig, you won't get an email for that particular event. It will show up in your dashboard, in that stoplight dashboard, though. So most of our partners just check that stoplight dashboard every morning. We're going to have more granular email reporting. Right now, the email reporting is kind of on or off. You can't decide what you want email reports for. But we've actually got a release next month that's going to have more granular email reporting in it. Alan writes, can the online backup be automated and run on scheduled time? Alan, yeah, we saw that in the product demo. I know I went through it very quickly. You can set up your schedule to run hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. Craig writes, when doing a full restore, can we download and then restore on premises, or do we have to do it via online? Craig, you can absolutely do a recovery from your on-premises copy. That goes back to this 2-step backup pattern that's depicted in the diagram on screen right now. By virtue of leveraging an on-prem staging environment, you've then got the speed of local recovery. So you can recover over a 1 gigabit LAN connection instead of recovering over a 1 megabit WAN connection. So that's why we recommend this deployment pattern. It's particularly important for bandwidth-sensitive environments, which pretty much describes the whole country of Australia. Where are we? Milena asked, what is the most common support issue? Really depends on the type of customer, Milena. Among consumers, it's as simple as how to download the software. Among partners, I don't know what the most common support issue would be these days. Cameron writes, do you have anyone on the ground in New Zealand read the SOS product? So Cameron, we've got a lot of partners. We've got no staff, so not sure if you're looking for partners or if you're looking for staff. Tony, I hope I answered your question about the trial. Let me know if I didn't. Trudy writes, you mentioned a reseller could start with a file folder program if they don't have a customer base yet. Please explain further. So Trudy, we've got, where we put the 4 ServerSafe program offerings on screen, we have an additional program for file folder partners, which doesn't come with, it comes with about half of the products and technology we saw today. But you can ask your partner specialists about that and they can give you more details. I don't have a slide on it, unfortunately. Where are we up to? George writes, can I get a price for all products you have? George, absolutely. Again, your partner specialist who's going to be in touch with you tomorrow will be able to get you a price on anything you're asking for. Roughly 90% of our partners, so I can do the math for last month, 92% of our partners for last month came into the ServerSafe program, just to give you an idea of the distribution. Paul writes, what is the shortest time period for a backup? I think Shadow Protect can do 5-minute increments. Paul, for the cloud, it's hourly. Shadow Protect's working over the local network. So going to the cloud, doing it every 5 minutes is probably overkill. But there's actually a hack. There's a workaround that will allow you to do it every 5 minutes if you wanted to, but through the interface, you just do it. Hourly is the most granular. Rory wrote, iCloud versus SOS for Apple device backup. Rory, I'll give you the straight scoop. iCloud's a better backup for iPhone devices, plain and simple. iCloud really sucks at PC backup, Android backup, server backup, just about anything else. So if you're just looking to back up iPhones and that's your entire business, my recommendation is use iCloud backup, to be really frank. The value of SOS is one single pane of glass to manage all of your backups across all your devices. Nobody can match us in that. With Apple, we're just sandboxed by their APIs. We can't get access to the iOS backup APIs that Apple has itself. So when and if the Apple SDK opens up and we can hook into those APIs, we'll extend what we can back up on iPhone. But for right now, we're limited to contacts, photos, and videos.
I believe also with the iCloud, You're only looking at about 5 gigabytes worth of
Totally.
storage.
And it's like $10 per gigabyte per year.
New iPhones take 1080p video, take a couple shots, and you're already over that margin.
Right. Yeah, I got a new iPad 3 recently, and literally the moment I got it, it was full. I'd taken like one video, and I was at my 5 gig limit. Again, we're fairly biased, so, but I will say that the value that we bring is the ability to back up many, many devices and manage them all centrally, and do it in a very secure way, and give you, the partner, 60%. Good luck making 60% on Apple products. Right. Lucas writes, do you need to have a staging environment for a full server backup for, say, a basic SBS package with Exchange and SharePoint, or can you run the entire cloud suite from the server with a separate internal drive for local backups? Lucas, you can do both. So here on this screen, we've got 2 patterns. We're saying for data payloads more than a terabyte, we recommend the staging environment. For data payloads less than a terabyte, go straight to the cloud. Most SBS deployments are less than a terabyte in data, so you'll be fine doing it straight to the cloud, I think. Andrew writes, how different is the server-save backend portal compared to the file folder system? Andrew, the portals are very similar, but you don't get the any of the server license, any of the client-server technology with the file folder program. Craig writes, can the Exchange email archive be used in court as an untampered with archive, where you cannot be modified and verified that way? Craig, yeah, we do get a lot of usage for like e-discovery. That is a big area of demand. I'm just sort of thinking through. I studied as a lawyer once upon a time, so I'm thinking through the implications of your question. Yeah, it would probably stand up in court here in America. I don't know if it would stand up in court in Australia as sort of an untampered with evidence chain, but certainly it's used extensively in electronic discovery efforts. So that's a big usage of the product. Yeah, to the specifics of your question, I need to check that out. Nathan asked if we can get a copy of the presentation slides you used today. Nathan, do they get a copy of the slides shown or just the video?
Just the video they will get
but they can get
in
the
a
slides
couple of
of their
days.
partner specialist.
Exactly.
So you get an email with the video of today's presentation, and you can get the slide deck off your partner specialist, or email Shaylin Herrick. Shaylin's email address, I'm going to type into the chat section of GoToWebinar. Actually, I'm just going to type it here, and hopefully you'll all be able to see it. Shaylin, what's your email address?
It is Shaylin, SHEILIN Herrick, HERRICK, at SOSOnlinebackup.com. Feel free to shoot me a note if you want to get a PDF of this presentation. I'd be happy to send it to you.
Any request for marketing material, Shaylin can help you out with, and she can also connect you with the right people internally. Usually at these webinars, we've got our VP of Sales, Jeff McCauley. He couldn't make it this evening on short notice, but yeah, Shaylin will definitely be able to forward you to the right people. Lucas writes, can you do multiple incrementals from your software? I know that Shadow Protect only allows a single incremental backup job per server instance. So Lucas, yes, you can run multiple parallel incremental backup jobs. We manage the version chain on the back end. So with Shadow Protect, you've got to worry about image sets, you've got to worry about baselines, differentials, corrupt image change, incremental change, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to worry about any of that with SOS. We keep the unlimited version history, and we maintain it for you. So we really abstract all of that away. You don't need to worry about it. Now, I can give you the details of that, particularly if you're interested, but at a high level, it's just automatically managed. Milena writes, is it possible to get a copy of the Q&A email? Milena, you'll get an email with the video in a day or two. Trudy writes, does SOS co-partner with other companies who offer password management software for individuals or small teams? Trudy, I don't know if any of our partners do that. We've got about 1,000 managed service providers partner with us and a few thousand affiliates. So there's a very good chance that one of those partners is in the password management business. Michael's still confused with the pricing, so I'll go back to that.
And also, Michael, a great thing to do is to schedule some time with your partner specialist to do an ROI. And when we say we do an ROI, we literally mean we walk through your business and what you have in terms of clients downstream and figure out how much money you can make.
Right. Another question here, if Craig asks, if we become partners and someone from our area requests SOS, do you push the contact to Craig, or do we, SOS, take it in-house? Are you after as many partners as possible or by region? Craig, we're after as many partners as possible. We don't sell ServiceSafe directly, so we would farm that out to you. We will be offering ServiceSafe directly in future, but like I said earlier, between 75 and 80% of our business comes through our channel, so we're very much focused on the channel. Okay, so let's go over pricing once again. With the ServiceSafe product, the pricing is all architected around the number of servers that we're dealing with. And for you all, I think that correlates to the number of clients you sell to. Most of your clients are probably going to be single server shops, although for those of you who are still on the line, we've still got about 29 people on the line. How many servers do your customers have? Do they have one or do they have multiple? I'm very interested in that. So while you're answering that, I'm going to work on the assumption that these are, each of your customers has one server. You might skew this up, so you sell a single server that comes with, say, 10 endpoints, right? And so if you've got a customer, let's say you have a customer with 30 endpoints, you might say to that customer, well, you need 3 ServiceSafe packages. And they may say, well, I've only got one server. It's like, well, it doesn't really work that way. Our bundles come with a 10-to-1 ratio of endpoints to servers, and frankly, this is still a better product and far cheaper than what you have been paying for anyway. So you're free to bundle this, your own way, although most of our partners sort of slice and dice what we give them. You might change the ratio. You might decide that you bundle 20 endpoints each with a single server seat, and you sell it as one managed package. Our partners who make the most money are not the ones who offer a Chinese menu to their customers and have their customers pick which dishes they're going to order. The partners that make the most money are the ones who go in and sell a full end-to-end solution. They do a data analysis, they do a risk registry, they do an implementation plan, they actually implement the backup, they provide full management services for all the backup across the servers as well as the endpoints, and they do managed recoveries when there are incidents. If you bundle the entire solution like that, you can easily sell it for $300, $400, $500 per month per business customer of yours. If you go to the complete other end of the spectrum and just offer this per seat from your website, then you're going to be in much more of a price battle than you would be if you offered it as a sort of high-touch managed service. So we coach most of our partners to go that way. It doesn't mean you can't do it in the other way. Because we wholesale to you at $1.20 per gigabyte per year, you can still compete on price. So hopefully we answered Michael's questions there on price. It's architected around servers. The cost per server per month is $80. The basic package starts at 5 servers and pricing goes down from there. I should highlight that when you're on the ServiceSafe 25 package, you're only paying $36 per server. You're selling it for $130 minimum, maybe $200, maybe $300, and you're only paying $36 per server. So that's about 75% gross margin, not the 60% I quoted you earlier. All right, well, we are at time. That's an hour and 40 of listening to us. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I'll stick around and answer a few more questions, so if you're still interested, please don't feel the need to stick around, but if you're still interested, we'll take a few more questions on the line. Otherwise, please do get in touch with your partner specialist, request a trial, use the product, and we'd love to see you join the SOS Partner Program.
What we should do is put the 1-800 number in the chat so that you guys can all have it. I will certainly reach out to our partner specialist to whom you should be assigned and make sure that they contact you. But you can also call us at 877-896-3611.
Or, as my fellow compatriots will tell you, they need the direct dial number because the 877 number doesn't work from home.
Sorry, I'm an ignorant American.
I'm embarrassed to say I don't know our phone number off the top of my head. The direct dial number is +1 310 878 2626, and I'm just going to paste that in. Do the replies that we're doing go to everybody? Can everybody see these answers we're putting into the questions? Great. Okay. Okay, terrific. Well, yeah, so embarrassingly, we don't have any partner specialists right here to take your calls right now. So I'll sit around and take your questions. It's going on 8 p.m. here. So they're all going to be in touch with you tomorrow, and rest assured that will be changing. We'll be sort of changing out our operations to service the Australian market a lot more because right now our overlap is really just through midday for you guys. So hopefully it was an informative webinar. I hope you learned what you wanted to learn. If not, we'll be doing more of these in the future, so keep your eye out for other webinar events that we're doing for the ANZ area. Very much welcome feedback. If you've got any constructive feedback or criticism, feel free to let us know what we did right and what we did wrong. So just answering some of the other questions that are on the line. Michael asked, is there a partner fee? Michael, not so much a partner fee as much as you buy product from us. Tony writes, what about the objection, my Telstra or other ISP upload quota is too small for me to effectively back up online? Tony, use our physical media upload service. So send us the data on a hard drive. We'll upload it for the customer. And they only have to send their incremental data, which will be very, very small. So when we launched SOS Online Backup, we launched in Australia in the year 2000.